something that we know about ancient wisdom is that it repeats itself through modern wisdom. There is no new wisdom. Everything we hear from new teachers and new speakers is something that has been said before, probably even thousands of years ago. We have the same wisdom repeated to us by all the teachers down through the generations, maybe because we're not such great listeners and learners, but really because it's true. And because it's true, it never stops being true, and there isn't some other truth to replace it. But we do need to hear it again. Every generation needs to hear wisdom in its own language, in words that we recognize. You know, I frequently talk about the Stoics, and many people, including myself, find that the Stoics do speak in a language that we can recognize very clearly in our modern times. And of course, people have, for thousands of years, easily related to that kind of language. But it's still really interesting to see how modern teachers come up with very similar ideas expressed in different ways, probably with awareness of the Stoics, which is even better, but that there are new ways to understand our human predicament. And so one of these teachers is through a book that I recently encountered called Living Untethered by Michael Singer, who really, the book is subtitled Beyond the Human Predicament. And he takes a very Stoic approach to how we should deal with the difficulty of this predicament, that nothing is quite the way that we want it, that things go wrong so easily, things just do not turn out how we expect it. And he says we're taking the whole wrong approach to what we are doing. He says, and this is a quote, sitting on a planet spinning through vast outer space for a handful of years, in the broadest sense, this is the human predicament. Earth has been here for 4.5 billion years, yet each of us is limited to, at best, an 80-year ride on the planet, give or take a few years. We were born on the planet, and we will leave it when we die. That is simply the truth. What is not such a hard and fast truth, however, is what our few years on Earth are like. Undoubtedly, the planet can be a very exciting experience, says Singer. It can bring enthusiasm, passion, and inspiration at every turn. When it unfolds that way, every day can be a beautiful adventure. Unfortunately, life on Earth rarely unfolds exactly as we want it to, and if we resist, our experience can be quite unpleasant. Resistance creates tension and anxiety, and it makes life a burden. And so the key argument that Singer is really bringing to us is that we resist, that's what creates the difficulty and the predicament of life. We need to take a different approach. We kind of need to surrender. He says, you are being given a unique show that took billions of years to create. It's right in front of you, and you're complaining about it. Only by accepting how reality is and accepting the flow of life can we experience a better life. And so we know that the great masters teach us about surrender and about acceptance and about non-resistance. And these are the things which create the spiritual life. But they are difficult to do, and they're difficult to grasp. So Singer promises that we need to look at the reasonableness, he says, of acceptance and the great promise it gives us, freedom, peace, and inner enlightenment. He says that acceptance is best understood as non-resistance to reality. You can't undo what's happened. You can't change what has happened. You can only accept what has happened or resist what has happened when something happens. Those are your two options. You can't change anything. It's happened. Resistance tends to strengthen whatever it is that we're resisting, because it gives them power and energy, because we have to work against it. So that push makes them kind of push back. Mostly, resistance prevents us from learning about whatever it is that we're resisting, because we're busy fighting against it, wanting to change it, and not being open to whatever it is. If we need to understand something, we have to open ourselves to it and look at it, otherwise we're kind of ignorant of it. So Singer says, accepting what we fear is what causes it to disappear. The key, he says, to understanding why we need to surrender and not resist is that we are not the creators of reality. Everything that happens to you, everything that you experience, is the result of everything that happened before you. The 13.5 billion years of existence of this universe, the 4.5 billion years of the existence of this earth, have all led up to you. You are the end product of all of that. He says, don't be ridiculous. Don't think you're in charge of that. You're clearly the end product of it. You are not the doer, the creator. You are the receiver, the experiencer of reality. All of this has nothing to do with you. You arrived into it. And the first acceptance we have to do is kind of, here I am on earth. Surrender, accept. You accept that you're in this world. So that's the starting point, he says, of everything that we do. According to him, one of the greatest reasons we have this predicament, the difficulty of life on earth, is because we think that we have the right to like and dislike the result of billions of years of interactions. He says that is denying the truth. If you want to accept the truth, let go of the part of you that is not living the truth. In other words, let go of the idea that you're in charge and that you are the doer, and understand and accept that you're the end product, you're the receiver, you're the experiencer, not the creator. That is where surrender begins. Teachers have said, surrender begins where other strategies end. Surrender is not a strategy. It is the absence of strategies. It's realizing that strategies aren't working. We're fresh out of ideas, and so we drop all resistance, and we can say, I don't know. I shall just sit here and receive because my strategies aren't working. Surrender isn't a strategy. It's the absence of strategy. Well-known teacher Byron Katie calls it loving what it is. The Stoics call it acquiescence. And basically, Stoicism is predicated on this acquiescence. Surrender is really the truth behind all spiritual paths. All these different teachers, be it Singer, be it the Stoics, be it anyone, it's at the heart of all spiritual paths. It is the most powerful and profound lesson that all the ancient teachers give us. It's often not well understood, as simple as it is. You know, people think it does mean giving up, or often it's just kind of reduced to the idea of just let go as a kind of a instruction, just let go. And so while that contains the truth, it doesn't really tell us why, what it is, or where we really are in that picture ourselves. We are, because that's something that we try and do. If you must do surrender, let go. The whole point is that we're not the doer. We are the receiver. We must stop doing. So we mustn't create a strategy of how to surrender. We must just stop all the doing. And that is the surrender. Our misunderstanding is that in trying to do surrender, we drain surrender of the power that it really has. Surrender is not failure or defeat or punishment or giving up or a negative state, accepting the bad stuff. It's not about that. What surrender is accepting that something is beyond our limits. Sometimes we live with difficult situations for a long time, difficult truths and those kind of things for a long time, and all our coping strategies fail to work. But what all those difficult things do is bring us to our knees. And when they bring us to the point where we accept that there's nothing we can do, that is the release. That is the surrender. That's what gives us the power to change. It is not defeat. It is not acceptance of this is a bad thing I accept. It's acceptance of I'm not in charge. I'm not in control. Remember, the key Stoic tenet is to only concentrate on what you are in control of. And the only thing you're in control of is your reactions to everything else that's going on around you. That's pretty much all that you're in control of. And so surrender takes it to its natural limit and says, so release those reactions. You have the power to not react and react by figuratively, maybe literally, falling to your knees and saying, if what has caused this is not in my control, then how I change is probably not in my control either. I just release and allow the bigger picture to play itself out and let me observe and let me learn, and that was what will change me. Singer says, one of the most amazing things you will ever realize is that the moment that is happening, this thing that is happening that is so difficult, is not what is bothering you. You are bothering yourself about it, which is exactly what Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic teacher, says. He says, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it. And thus you have the power to revoke at any moment. You have the power to say, this doesn't bother me. It's me that's bothering me. Because it is just something playing out, whether I'm here or not. I could walk away and this is still happening. So it's not bothering me. It's me saying that I choose to be bothered by. Even the great teacher of mythology, Joseph Campbell, says there's an important idea in Nietzsche, the amor fati, the love of your fate, which is in fact your life. As he says, if you say no to a single factor in your life, you have unraveled the whole thing. Furthermore, the more challenging or threatening the situational context that you have to deal with, the greater your power and stature as a person achieving that. The demon that you can swallow, he says, gives you its power. The greater the life's pain, the greater the life's reply. That's Joseph Campbell. Surrender is when we know that we don't know. Surrender arrives when we know that we can't think our way out of it, strategize our way out of it, even see our way out of it. We don't have an answer. In real surrender, we don't know if what's going to come next is going to be better or worse, more comfortable, more terrible. All we know that this way, the way that we're doing it, the way that we're responding, isn't working. I can't go on like this. So I stop. I just don't respond in that way. I don't know. I stop controlling what the outcome is going to be. Singer loves his space metaphors. He reminds us that 99.9% of the universe that we know is empty space. So he says, how would you like to be out there and see nothing? Because that's what it all is out there, is nothing. What you get to see every day, this incredible earth that you live on, this incredibly crazy stuff that happens in this living world, all the not nothing, is a miracle. He says, actually, you should take the attitude that I'm awestruck and gifted to be able to witness this miracle, because in almost 100% of everything around me, there's absolutely nothing. Yet here I am in that little speck where amazing stuff that's not in my control is happening. He says, be thankful that you've got your everyday experiences, even when they're like that, because certainly the alternative in this cosmos is nothing at all. And he says, that's wisdom. The wise person lives that way, because the alternative is to suffer because things are not the way you want. So Singer goes on to say that the way to let go of pain is to practice, like how we practice everything else. And the way to practice is to start simple. Start with the small things, what he calls the low-hanging fruit. So little situations every day where we disturb ourselves for no reason, like what the car in front of you is doing, someone else breaking the rules over there in that car that there's nothing you can do about it. And you suddenly turn into this angry policeman, which we all know that experience. Look at all the little things that make us tense and uptight that have nothing to do with you. Easy ones to let go of. They are the low-hanging fruit. It's obvious that there's nothing we can do about it and it has no direct effect on us. And he says, if you look at that cost analysis benefit, it's 100% benefit to you and zero cost to you to let go of that. Easy. And then that's how we should start approaching everything else, that we need to let go and surrender and realize that the benefit to me is great, the cost to me is nothing. But strangely, as easy as that is, it's not so easy for us to do, because we struggle when things are not the way that we want, even in an irrational struggle. I mean, we human beings are great at being irrational, make no mistake. Our cognitive dissonances and everything else we do that makes us so irrational. And so it's the same. The idea that things are not going the way I want them to do is profoundly irrational. It's profoundly irrational because I'm not in charge of things. Just a very small number of things. So mostly the fact that all these things that bother me are bothering me is because I'm not accepting the fact that I'm not in control, and therefore the idea that things are not going the way I want them to go is completely irrational. It's such a good one to catch ourselves on, because we often do feel that this is not how I wanted it to happen. And the real question is, what did ever that have to do with you in the first place? And again, let go, just accept that. He says wisdom is accepting that. You're not going to change the weather by complaining about it. The wisdom is to change your reaction instead of fighting with reality. And like that, you not only change your relationship with everything else out there, but you change your relationship with yourself. When we surrender, we give up, but not giving up as in failing. We don't give up to the situation. We give up to the notion that we should be able to manage the situation, that we are in control of it. That is what we are giving up. We don't say, I give up, walk all over me. We say, I give up, I'm not in charge. I don't know whether you're going to walk all over me. I don't even have to worry about that because I'm not in charge of it. I just give up of the belief that I can make reality any different than what it is. We are conditioned to never give up. But we're conditioned to believe that if we keep on trying or doing, we'll finally get relief. And of course, it's the opposite. When we surrender, we let go of the results of our actions. We accept that we can do everything right and well and still not achieve the goal that we want to achieve. When we stop controlling the results, when we hand over the idea that the results are up to us, we are granted access to the present moment, and the power lies in the present moment. When everything we're doing and saying and making is no longer about trying to control the future, which we don't control, and producing a certain result that we're not actually in charge of, we're able to drop into the present moment and experience the present moment as it is. The Bhagavad Gita says, reshape yourself through the power of your will. Those who have conquered themselves live in peace, alike in cold and heat, pleasure and pain, praise and blame. To such people, a clod of dirt, a stone, and gold are all the same, because they are impartial, and so they rise to great heights. Impartiality, accepting this is the present, this is the world, and this is where I live. And it is exactly how it should be, because I can safely assume that because I'm not in charge of it. So presumably it's exactly how it's supposed to be. And it doesn't matter what you believe is in charge of it, whether you believe it's God or nature or randomness or physics or a mystery that we haven't even got the faintest idea about, which is probably the real one. Whatever it may be, I know it's not me. We do have a lot of kind of new agey ideas that we create the world by how we think about it. We've got that nonsense, The Secret, for example, that basically lies and says ancient wisdom is about how we create everything ourselves. In fact, ancient wisdom is about precisely the opposite. It's about how we're not in charge of anything ourselves. And acceptance and surrender is what gives us power, not bashing our heads against the wall saying, Why didn't I win the lottery? I worked so hard to manifest it. Why did they win the lottery? Why did the rain come as I ran there with the... All these things are the lie. And the truth is about letting go and accepting. There are many things that we can do to advance ourselves on our spiritual journeys. Anything that helps us let go, open, release is what is going to advance us on our spiritual journeys. Once we learn to let go of the noise of personal thoughts and personal emotions and personal desires and demands, things become much clearer. We become able to look at and work with the situation in front of ourselves. If we're conscious, if we live in the present, if we're paying attention, and we understand that we are not in charge, we know then what to do. If we understand the limits of our own control, we become incredibly powerful in it, because we know where we are effective, and that is about how we react. And if we always try and react without trying to take control, then we stay in that power of I'm in charge of my reactions. Because control is not an honest reaction, because we aren't in control. The evidence is clear and it doesn't work. If we were in control, we'd constantly be happy and everything would be going exactly the way we wanted it always. That's what I mean by the evidence is very clear. We aren't in control. And our momentary alignment with things sometimes makes us feel that we are. Surrender, not being in control, those things do not mean we accept bad outcomes. It simply means we accept that whatever the outcome is not up to me. And so I like all outcomes because I don't have to take responsibility for that. If your motive is to let go of yourself and serve the moment in front of you, you are worthy of the great respect, says Singer. How would you like to meet someone whose entire motive and purpose in life is to first let go of their personal blockages and then do their best to serve what's in front of you? They can't go wrong because their motive is pure. And if the motive is pure and impersonal, in the end, it will spread light. And Singer says, you can be that person. Be sure your motive is pure, and then don't look back. He says, my formula for success was very simple. Do whatever is put in front of you with all of your heart and all of your soul, without regard for personal results. Do the work as if it was given to you by the universe itself, because it was. And even if that simply means it ended up in front of you. And so there it is. Once we do this, we are aligning ourselves with the much greater force, the universe itself. And again, you don't have to believe in a magical world or a meaningful world. Even if you do, all of that becomes irrelevant. Whatever the universe is, if we take the approach of surrender, and if we take the understanding that we are not in control, we become a part of it. And it, whatever it is an enormous miracle. As Singer said right at the beginning, when you think about this little you in this incredibly colorful, shape-filled, amazing world that you can't possibly understand, why you? Why here? Why not the 99.9% of this world that is just empty space? Then you realize that is what a miracle means. A miracle doesn't necessarily mean what the Bible says it means. You don't have to believe that. If you do, then great. But if you don't, it's really just this word that says it's incomprehensibly huge to you. But it's like if you were in control, you wouldn't even know how to do that. It's so amazing. And so that's what you realize when you live in the present, when you surrender and just be one of the specks that is beautifully making these colors and shapes, and be the best little speck of color and shape that you can be. You become part of the miracle. You become one of the ingredients that makes this amazing, unknowable universe operate the way it does. It might not be in control, but if you are one of the cells that are making it all happen, you're achieving your purpose. I'll see you again next week at the same time.